I would like to formally welcome you all to Chippenham Town Council's Finance Subcommittee meeting. Please may I remind everyone this is a public meeting, is being streamed to YouTube and will be available there in the public domain for a period of 6 months. Can I remind all councillors to use their microphones with the little buttons next to them and raise their hand clearly and keep it raised when voting. Please ensure you're respectful of others in attendance to this meeting. We have received no public questions in advance of the meeting. Please can officers confirm if there are any other members of the public present who have indicated they wish to speak?
There are none, Chair.
Thank you. So we'll start the meeting. First of all, we have apologies for absence. Please can officers confirm if they received any apologies for absence?
We have none, Mr. Mayor. We have a full house.
Lovely. So in that case, I take it there'll be no notice of substitution either. So moving on to item 3, the election of chair. Just say that the chair of finance is quite an important position with the council. We do look after over £4.5 million worth of money, mainly raised through local taxation for residents. So every decision we make here does have real consequences to the services to which the people of Chippenham and visitors to our lovely town enjoy. So I would say that whoever does put themselves forward to become chair, just to be conversant, they have to be aware of how to handle a balance sheet, know to be alert to financial risks, and take that on board to be wanting to learn and gain that competency over the year. So with that, I'll open for nominations. Do I have any nominations for chair? Councillor Nonoff.
I would like to nominate Councillor Finlay.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? I see Councillor Wakeman. Do you accept the post, Councillor Finlay?
I do.
Lovely. Right. Okay. Without further ado, then I will vacate the chair and hand over to Councillor Finlay. Congratulations. Oh, so we need to vote, don't we? Sorry. All those in. Sorry. I'm not very good at this chair job, obviously. Can I see any other nominations? I take it there'll be none. Can I see a vote? All those in favour, please. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Councillor Finlay.
I'd like to say thank you, everybody. So now we shall move on to item 4, the election of vice chair. So this is to elect a vice chair of the finance subcommittee for the municipal year 26-27. Could I ask for nominations, please? Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to propose Councillor Nonoff if she will stand. Thank you.
And do we have a seconder? Councillor Scott. Right, could we have a vote? Any other nominations? Sorry. No? Right, could we have a vote for Councillor Nonoff as vice chair then? So that's unanimous. Thank you. Welcome aboard. Okay. Item number 5, declaration of interest. All members of the Town Council are reminded to declare any pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests they may have in any business of the Council, its committees or subcommittees, in accordance with the latest approved Code of Conduct. Members are reminded to declare any dispensation granted in relation to any relevant matter. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Okay. So we shall move on to agenda item 6. Minutes of the previous meeting. To approve as correct, record and to sign the draft minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of April 2026. The minutes require a proposer and a seconder for approval. Okay, Are there any comments to be made in relation to the accuracy of the minutes? No? Then may I have a proposer? Councillor Hall? And a seconder? Councillor Owen? Okay, vote, please. And the vote? So that's unanimous, thank you.
That's right.
Did you abstain? Sorry, apologies. Yeah, you looked miles away. Okay, so yeah, sorry. 8-4-1 abstention. Okay, chair's announcements. To receive any announcements from the chair. Currently there are no announcements. Okay, so item number 8. The budget setting for 27-28 report is on pages 9 to 14 of the agenda. Okay, so we shall hear from Gillian.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, councillors. I hope you've all managed to read the report. So I'll do a brief summary for you. This report marks the start of the council's budget setting process for 27-28 financial year. At this stage, no decisions are being asked for on the final budget. Instead, I am seeking councillors' initial views to help shape the draft budget that will be developed over the coming months. The budget will need to balance the cost of maintaining existing services with the council's ambitions set out in the corporate strategic plan, while ensuring that we can continue to maintain adequate reserves and deliver value for money for residents. The draft budget is being prepared using prudent assumptions, including a 3.3 pay award, 3.3 general inflation, forecast increases on utility costs, existing contractual uplifts, and maintaining the council's general reserve at a minimum of 25% of net revenue expenditure. Based on these assumptions, a combined impact of pay awards, inflation, and other unavoidable cost increases, it's currently forecast to create a budget pressure of approximately 3.5%. If the council's income does not increase, a budget increase of around 3.5% would therefore be required simply to maintain existing service levels. This represents a standstill budget only and does not include funding for any of the new initiatives or service improvements. Councillors should also note that this forecast relates solely to the income and expenditure budget. The capital programme is considered through the Capital Earmark Fund budget process. If councillors wish to progress additional priorities, such as the enhanced youth provision or economic development, these would require additional funding above the standstill position. Equally, if councillors wish to reduce the precept below the level required to maintain current services, decisions would need to be made on which services could be reduced. Over the coming months, more detailed budget proposals and a range of precepts options will be brought back to this committee for consideration before recommendations are made to the Statutory and Resources Committee and ultimately full council. Thank you. I'll just pass back over to the chair for the recommendations.
Okay, so the recommendations are that the Finance Subcommittee notes the draft budget assumptions and financial pressures identified for 27-28 financial year. It's also recommended that the Finance Subcommittee provides a steer on its preferred budget option and overall precept level to enable the preparation of the final draft budget for consideration by the S&R Committee and ultimately full council. 3, that further detailed budget proposals and precept modelling be presented to a future meeting of the Finance Subcommittee to be recommended to Strategy and Resources Committee, and finally full council for formal consideration and approval. May I ask if there's any comments or questions from councillors? Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Gillian, for the report. So the first question is just regarding whether so far in this new municipal year, whether we've actually had any new ideas or anything approved, any group or committee that have a cost impact that we would anticipate. And second point is just perhaps a suggestion that we communicate out to councillors that if they do have new ideas or things they were looking to achieve in the next financial year, that now would be a good time to surface those. I was writing stuff up myself last night, thinking about the fact that actually Christmas will quickly be upon us, and it makes sense to begin those conversations early. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you, councillor. All those are good ideas and would be then put in towards the budget.
Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to officers for a very helpful report. On section 4.2, the budget pressures, I was just reflecting on the position last year, and some of the contractual salary implications gave rise to a very much greater increase in overall salaries. And I wondered whether those will not apply this year, or might we expect that 3.5% to move closer to the 8% that we saw last year? Thank you.
At the moment, looking at the salary budget, it's set at 3.3%. We can't see anything at this present time that would be any different.
Councillor Owen again.
So just to be clear, that the additional contractual uplifts over and above the statutory pay award won't apply this year, or you're not expecting them to apply?
The statutory one, so any increments, yes, there will, but we factored that in as well.
And Councillor Wakeman.
Thank you. Have we noted that the GMB union has recommended to reject the 3.3%? Okay, so it's quite likely that it won't be 3.3%.
Which is why we don't start budget setting until
Yeah,
September, October time, to make sure that we have got the correct figures.
Yeah, so
But at the moment that it's set at 3.3 because that's what we're being told at the moment. But
No,
if it goes further on, then
that's
yes.
probably the best facts to go
Yeah.
with. But I would just to the rest of the room, since we're about to have discussions on numbers, that actually it's fairly likely that that will be negotiated, probably not down if the GMB union gets its way. And I would imagine the argument below inflation will come up there. So I would just be aware that even our current number has got upward pressure already, and that we don't know what that number is.
Chief
If I can,
Exec.
yeah, just comment, please, Chair. Yeah, the employers' representatives are very clear that they've made a first and final offer, and there is no headroom for it to increase. And of course, GMB are one of the three recognised trade unions that the employers' side bargain with. It could be that if the other two unions agree the pay offer, it will just be accepted, because that's the rule that prevails. As long as two agree it doesn't matter what the third one does. But you're right, we should exhibit some caution, because if the other two unions go to a ballot and they all decide on industrial action, and ultimately if the employer's side do increase the offer, nothing to suggest they will at the moment, but of course they could. It could exceed that amount. Yes.
Thank you for the clarification. I hadn't realised it was a 2 out of 3 question. That's a good detail to have, and yeah, let's hope.
Councillor Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair. Just for my own clarity, what are the contracted services which we actually have set up currently?
So this would be software or IT consultants. So all the things that we have in place over a long period of time that we've already signed up to. So we're contractual to carry on with them, but they have increases within the contract. So we have our IT suppliers, we have HR suppliers. It's normal suppliers within our income and expenditure budget.
And Councillor Scott.
Yeah, it was just to query, and I think I might have answered myself anyway. With the increase, have we factored in any impact on pension contributions and employer national insurance, or is that not throw anyone into brackets?
That's all within my payroll budget. When I do setting the payroll budget, so that is all taken into account.
Okay, thank you.
And Councillor Wakeman.
So just on that, thank you, Councillor Rutledge. That's a very astute question there with the services. Do we have any major contracts coming up for renewal in this budgetary period?
I think our IT contract is coming up. I think we've asked for a slight extension to our current one because obviously our IT is a major contract and there's a lot of background work that goes towards it. But I think the IT one's coming up. Our electricity ones aren't quite due this year. I think they're due next year, but I've already started working on them with our energy providers just to make sure that we are getting the best value for money for our green energy.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, so may I ask for a proposer for this report? Councillor Scott? Oh, but you want me to go through them again? Yeah, you want me to read them again? I did do the 1, 2, 3 earlier. Okay. Okay, so recommendation number 1, that the Finance Subcommittee notes the draft budget assumptions and financial pressures identified for the 2027 to 2028 financial year. Proposer?
That's just a note.
Okay.
Show.
Okay, show of hands, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, unanimous. Okay. Number 3, that further detailed budget proposal. Well, okay. That the Finance Subcommittee provides a steer on its preferred budget option and overall precept level to enable the preparation of the final draft budget for consideration by the Strategy and Resources Committee and ultimately full council. Councillor Wakeman.
So I guess this is where I'd say I'll lay myself out on this one. In previous budgetary discussions at the end, I've certainly said that I have supported the level of precept rise that we've managed to achieve in the years that in the previous years, based on the fact that Chippenham is still expanding, and I'm sure it'll expand further. The actual take will get larger and the precept will be under control. But what I would say is I will still back the initiatives of this council to make Chippenham a destination town, to make Chippenham a great place to live and to keep those services at the level that they are, if not improve those over time. But, and this is the big but, I also appreciate the work that officers do put in to try and control some of those costs. And I think as they come to council, obviously we'll have, I always welcome the robust scrutiny from the other members of this chamber, and I'm sure we'll have some discussions on whether individual things will go through. But I would also welcome anybody else's view on that, because I know that there's a difference of opinion, and we should probably have that discussion in detail.
Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Wakeman. I think essentially what we've seen today is our base. So we're at 3.5%, and anything here on in will be on top of that as we choose to have it. A standstill budget isn't, for me, what I came into this role to want to reside over. But that said, actually, reflecting on the last few weeks of being a resident in this town, a standstill of what we offer actually I think is already a pretty good quality of life, clean streets and a generally pleasant place to live. I would suggest that almost from this point now in running through the year is, as various committees are potentially being given new ideas to consider and what have you, is the percentage increase is almost noted in running, so we understand where we are at. Not to say we want to stop making any new decisions, but just to have an appreciation as we get towards Christmas and that full council meeting of how we've arrived where, and how we got to that number. I wouldn't want to put a cap on the percentage at this stage, because I think I'd rather hear what it is we would like to achieve and then make the judgment in that context. But yeah, I'm for us, not standing still, but keeping an eye on things closely as we progress.
And Councillor Nunnall.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree. I think 3.5%, considering what we managed to do in this town, is amazing, even if we stood still. I come from a fairly cautious point of view here. We are right slap bang in the middle of an energy crisis, an energy price crisis, a cost of living crisis. And whereas, yes, a percentage here and a percentage there on just a Chippenham town precept isn't going to bankrupt a resident, I think it's the overall message. I think we would do extremely well to come across as very financially prudent this year and try and certainly keep it as close to those 3.5% as possible. Saying that, obviously, I understand that things crop up, that good ideas come up that might warrant it. But I think we need to be very aware that we have to be able to justify this to our residents. And that maybe it might be an idea to this year go, we can prove how prudent we can be, if need be, to take as much pressure as we can at our level of our residents. Thank you.
And Councillor Wakeman.
I think Councillor Poole's before me.
Councillor Poole.
Thank you, Councillor Wakeman. Let me come in there. Yeah, I mean, I can understand where Councillor Wakeman is coming from, and I fully respect his comments that he made earlier on that we are a progressive council and we like to take on new projects and give the people of Chippenham more. But I've said this in the past, an air of caution regarding the cost of living crisis at the moment and what people are going through. And I think really I would like to see the precept rise as close to inflation the figure as possible. And I've said this before, and I don't like to sound like a crack record, but I think I would like to see this the precept set for the next financial year to be as close to the national rate of inflation as possible, because I think, as just been said, it sets the right message that we will be a responsible council looking after the people of Chippenham and trying to make sure their tax bills are as low as possible. Thank you, Chair.
And Councillor Wakeman.
Is there any is there any space that maybe we could add into the recommendations that councillors, and we put this out to the full council, bring any sort of ideas and requests through the ideas process through the leaders group, but as Councillor Scott has said, quite astutely, forward load them, try and bring them have them worked through at least budgetarily for the next finance committee, so that we can see whether there are any projects that, accepting both Councillor Nonnos and Councillor Poole's, I agree, let's be prudent, but let's also look, are there any really good ideas within this council that that for want of a small precept rise we might actually want to bring forwards, but try and bring those in earlier in the year just to give the officers a chance to work that into the budget.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Wakeman. Yeah, more than happy to reinforce process and processes by which councillors can bring ideas forward, which is come and talk to corporate management team, raise it with the group leader can then raise it at the regular leaders meeting. So we've got that process already in place, but certainly we can sort of reinforce that so that all councillors understand that. Thank you.
If we could just, maybe if we put a communication out or add it as into the recommendations that let's get councillors to bring those ideas early and not be sitting here in the autumn with fresh ideas that we've not had any financial oversight of. Maybe, I'm sure everybody's got some interesting stuff that we could discuss and short list and then remove. Not to say that we shouldn't consider ideas if they come up. If somebody has the greatest idea ever later on in the budget cycle, please bring it. But maybe we encourage people to forward load their thinking this year.
Yes, thank you very much. So I think you've just kind of covered it in your second point there. Obviously, ideas come up as and when they come up, and the process is there to be flexible. If something comes up and councillors want to do it, you have that vote. If it becomes to a committee, you have that decision. It could be noted in the minutes that the finance subcommittee feel this way. You know, that would be reflected in whatever messaging we send out to councillors. But if you're looking to kind of report it formally, it would be a sort of an amendment or a motion to submit something formally. But obviously the remit of this report isn't necessarily covering that, so I'm not sure if that would be too far a change.
I'd welcome officers' input as to whether that's too far a change, but actually, if there's any way we could formally put out a request to councillors to say, if you've got any good ideas, get them in now, because we want to try and maintain the financial prudence of this council this year. Obviously not restrictive and saying you cannot bring ideas, because that's not the process, but we just put a polite request out.
Yeah, through Chair, I think by doing what previously suggested, which was reissuing that advice, I think that will save the need for you to raise a motion to amend the recommendation, which officers may have to say that motion to amend the recommendation is so far removed from the recommendation that's in front of you, we probably would advise you, the committee, not subcommittee, not to accept it. So quite happy to take it away and issue a councillor bulletin, just reinforcing those processes again. Thank you.
Councillor Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, that for me would have been probably what I would suggest is that we actually just issue a communication saying that, you know, the financial decision making process has now begun. You know, if you've got good ideas and we're sitting on them, then don't. But I think in even simpler approaches, we all operate in groups as councillors, so we can all go away from this meeting and make that point in our respective forums to say, you know, I sit on the finance subcommittee. If you're sitting on good ideas, don't sit on them any longer, get them typed up. My request was going to be as well around, is there already access to, or could we request from Gillian, a slightly more granular report of what we're currently spending money on? Because there is, on one hand, raising precepts to create new money to pay for ideas. There is, as ever, the fact that we already spend money on things that we may choose to move something away from somewhere else in order to justify a new idea. And so it's having that visibility to be able to say, I would like to do this, and I would potentially justify it by cutting back a bit on whatever. But like yesterday, I would have struggled to know where to look to be able to know how much we spend on grants, for example, across the,
So the quarterly report goes to S&R with the full figures of what we spent and the budget on there. So that does go to S&R.
So with the last.
So the next one is the next one is at the next S&R, which will be the figures from April to July. So that will show the figures for this year.
And that's coming up shortly, I'm guessing. Yeah. Okay, so maybe because we can all see that, can't we?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks.
And Councillor Poole.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, what Councillor Wakeman and Councillor Scott have suggested is a superb idea, because I think the last budget process we went through last year, we almost put the officers in an impossible position where we took on projects through the committee cycles throughout the financial year. And then we got up to about November, December time. One or two of us suggested that we'd like to keep the precept down as low as possible. And it basically puts officers in a completely impossible position where they have obviously got to try to go back quickly and revise everything after decisions have been made to take on new projects. So obviously the idea that Councillor Wakeman and Scott are coming up with obviously is will help officers come back with budgets for the finance sub.
Okay, so Councillor Wakeman.
So I'd say back to officers, is that sufficient detail for you to work with item 2 on there?
It's a very good steer in the right direction.
We don't want to put a number on it, but we hopefully give you a rough idea of what the next few months
I think it makes perfect sense to get any ideas coming forward so that we can put them into the budget. And then like I've said in the report, there will be different precept options coming up. So if we stand still, if we do this, if we do that, so it will all be ongoing and it will become clearer within the next settings.
Councillor Scott.
Yeah, sorry, last comment from me, and this is perhaps, you know, talking out loud in a way, is I guess as well with the new ideas, it's worth considering to ourselves, if we're ones proposing them, or to colleagues who might be doing so, is actually time scale as well. And there might be things that actually we think would be nice to do by the end of this, you know, cycle, or there might be things that we want to do immediately. And I think some of that context might help, because it might allow us to decide that yes, we want to adopt it, but not in the next financial year.
And Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say thank you to officers. Many of us were new to this process last year, and I'm sure there were times when it was challenging. I think this has been a collaborative approach, and I'd like to record my thanks for that.
Okay, now we'll move on to recommendation 3, that further detailed budget proposals and preset modelling be presented to a future meeting of the Finance Subcommittee to be recommended to Strategy and Resources Committee and finally full council for formal consideration and approval. Okay, so are there any comments on that one? No. So may I ask for a proposer for these recommendations? Councillor Owen and a seconder. Councillor Scott. Okay, I will move to the vote. Please can I have all those councillors in favour raise their hands? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item 9. Items for communication. To consider any items for communication from this meeting to residents. Do we have any items for communication to residents? Councillor Scott.
I may regret saying this, but I think, you know, perhaps some sort of publication that says that these decisions for the next year start earlier than people might realise, and if they do want, if they have ideas for the town, that their town councillors should be a port of call to air those possibly.
And Councillor McDermott.
I'm not sure if that's a good idea. You might get some backlash on social media, so we'll probably refrain from that for the time being until things have been published.
And item 2, to consider any questions or actions from this meeting to refer to the Youth Council for their opinion and response. Councillor Nunnall.
Yeah, I think if we're talking about forward planning and gathering of ideas that might potentially give us some ideas where to spend money, it might be an idea to speak to the Youth Council and say, is there anything that they are really, really excited about, any really good ideas they have, and do that as soon as possible to see whether we can incorporate any of that in the financial plan.
That certainly sounds appropriate. Okay, so finally we're on to item 10, date of the next meeting. The next meeting of the Finance Subcommittee will take place on Tuesday, the 15th of September 2026. And I now declare this meeting closed. Thank you very much.
Okay.